Welcome back to another video. In today's video we're doing a crop walk again because the last one was pretty shocking. Got too late on me and it was too dark. So we're going to have a quick look around at all our winter crops. We've got winter barley, winter forage rye and winter forage triticale. So we're starting off the crop walk here in one of our winter barley fields. This was an earlier sown. This field was ploughed, packed once, disked, packed before drilling and sown with the earth agri seeder. The variety in here is Belfry, and as you can see it's not looking too bad at all. It's a lot better than the last winter barley we sowed 2 years ago. There's not a single track in it. You wouldn't even know where the drill was or where the packer was before drilling, but you wouldn't expect to since we packed before drilling. The only tracks you can see in it are the tram lines from the first herbicide that was put out about a month ago now, or maybe even a bit longer. And we're just looking here at the roots and you can see how deep they are, and that's a good sign showing there's no compaction here and just a good start. Exactly what you want to see at this time of year with winter barley, and it's a good thing to see coming into the new year. But that's probably enough from here in the winter barley. We'll go look at a bit of forage rye now, I'd say. So now we are here in our forage rye field, and as you can see it's looking good and green. There's a bit of volunteer grass in it and a bit of volunteer spring barley, so it probably does help it look a lot greener compared to the barley, but we're not worried about that because, as I said, this is only a forage crop. So the plan is this is going to grow until about April. Hopefully it might be May, depending on the spring we get, and then it'll either be mowed and baled or it'll be mowed and put into the pit. So then we've got a bit of extra silage that could be sold, or we could just feed it to our own cattle through the summer to give us a bit more grass silage. So that's kind of what all the forage crops are for, the rye and the triticale, because I know a few people were asking about that before. What's the plan with the forage crops? And that's what it is. So I've got a few plants here in my hand, and you can see once again, just like the barley, they've tillered, maybe not as much as the barley, but barley's tillered a lot, and this is hopefully going to tiller a little bit more. And just like the barley, the roots are nice and deep, and this field, all we did was we ripper disked it after combining. So we ripper disked it once at an angle going that way, and then it was packed, and then we sowed it with the earth agri seeder up and down. You can just about make out the line still, but it is quite green, as I said, from the bit of grass and volunteer barley in it. But I said we're not too worried about that. So when we were sowing this, we used a starter fertilizer, so it is high in phosphorus. So when a seed is starting to emerge, that's exactly what it needs. It needs a lot of phosphorus. So it's right there beside the plant, and hopefully it used it and got up quite well. And as you can see, there's definitely nothing wrong in this field. The rye is growing away just as it should. Just to continue on from what I was talking about down there in the rye field, the earth agri seeder has 2 hoppers on it, and that's a big point for us and why we bought it. So as I was talking about, the starter fertilizer was going out to the secondary hopper, and you've got 2 options with the secondary hopper. You can go down with the seed, or you can broadcast out the back. So it could also be used for the likes of slug pellets when you're stitching in grass. So the slug pellets could just be broadcast out on top, and it'll keep the slugs away. So that's just an important thing to note about the earth agri seeder, and that's one of the big reasons why we went for the earth agri seeder in the end. But now we're up here in another one of our winter barley fields. This is the later sown barley. This is in after maize. I don't know how well you can see on video, but there's a few stalks there lying around. So this was min-tilled. We did not plough at all. It was ripper disked twice. It wasn't packed at all because it was a bit mauly, and then it was sowed with the earth agri seeder and the starter fertilizer again. So the variety in here is Jehu, whereas the barley we were in before is Belfry. So you can see it's still nice and green, and you definitely know it's a bit behind. This was sowed on the 23rd of October, and if you look here at the plants in my hand, you can see It wouldn't have tilled out quite as much as the belfry, but you'd expect that as it's in about 2 weeks later. So we're fairly happy here. You can also see that the roots wouldn't be quite as deep, and they're quite fine. They wouldn't have the same kind of hold in the ground as the belfry. That's just because conditions in this field wouldn't have been ideal when we were sowing. It would have been quite marginal. As I said, we didn't get to pack it because it was that wet, and we were worried we might cap the ground if we did pack it, but it's not looking too bad, and hopefully it'll continue growing well through the spring, and we'll have a nice crop here to harvest next July. So we're now here in our forage triticale field, and compared to the last time I was up here, about, must be nearly a month ago now, this field is actually tillered out quite a bit. You can see, compared to the last video I did, it's looking a lot thicker, and it's tillered out quite a lot really. I wouldn't say it's as thick as the forage rye down in the other field, but this seed would have been slightly older. This seed is from last year. It was meant to be sown, but we just did not get the autumn for it at all. But we're quite happy with that field, or this field now. It's looking a lot nicer. There's definitely a bit of volunteer grass in it that's helping green it up. But once again, same as the forage rye, we don't really care, as this field will be mowed and made into silage. Whether it's bales or pit is to be decided, but that's the plan for these. So these forage crops will be taken off, and then we'll either plough or ripper disc, and some of it's going into baby leaf salad, some of it's going into fodder beet, and this field's actually going into fodder beet as well. But you could also mow it and plough it and put maize in, which is another thing we're thinking of doing, but just with the way our ground is at the minute and the rotation we have, we just can't. You'd be trying to get forage winter crops in after fodder beet, and this year we actually could have done it, but it would have just been a lot of messing around, and we didn't have the seed for it and everything, so it's just the way it worked out this year. But also we've no more beet in the ground anymore. In the last crop walk we did, I looked at the beet and I was showing the tops, but we pulled our beet there about 5 days after I did the last crop walk, so all the beet is now being grazed by our ewes and the last few lambs we have to sell. So we're getting use out of the fields, even though there's not really a crop in them at the minute. The beet tops are good feeding for ewes and lambs, and the ewes will stay out on it and be fed a bit of silage until they come in to lamb in April. So that's kind of what's going on at the farm at the minute. We've looked at 2 of our barley fields. We've got 1 more, but it's away, so we're not going to go drive up and look at it. It's Jehu, and it was planted earlier. It was planted 2 weeks earlier than the later winter barley, so around the 10th of October, I'm not sure exactly, but it was Jehu, and it's looking pretty well. But we've 25 acres of barley and 15 acres of forage crops, and that's all the winter corn we have. It's the most winter corn we've grown in, well, in a long time, in probably about 10 years, but we're fairly happy with how everything's looking, and I'll probably finish up the video here, and we'll be back next week with another video. So if you did enjoy this, make sure you give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.